gentlemen, let's talk about Iron Fist. Now, first, before I continue, I just want everyone to know that as far as Iron Fist goes, I honestly was not a fan or not a non-fan in the Marvel Comics universe. I never actually really paid attention to him, to be honest with you. He was always around in the big crossover events, but he was never someone I particularly followed. So all of my actual comments are going to be based upon solely the Netflix property. So if you're a fan for many years and you are huge and you have problems with certain changes they made, I'm not going to address those because I don't know how to address those. I'm only going to be basing this upon the Netflix version of Iron Fist. With that said, here is my review. It's streaming now on Netflix. So the first question is, where did I get it? So that was, it's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, you'll be able to watch it. What's the cost? It's part of your Netflix subscription. Did it leave me wanting the story to continue? Yes. I can honestly say that I do want to see where it continues, how it goes further. So it's something that I will tune into season 2 with. Was I entertained and excited to see the next episode? Look, Netflix has a tendency to go a little slower than most shows. I think that they don't have to worry about necessarily keeping people's attentions, because if it's Netflix, you're watching it because you like the idea of the series. So hey, it's one of those things where it's not always going to be moving very quickly, but it keeps you engaged. I don't find a problem keeping along with it. I've watched it straight through, basically for the last 3 days, straight through when you have a 2-year-old that you have to take care of, but I've actually gotten to watch it in one weekend, so it did leave me interested enough to keep going. Were the characters relatable and interesting? Yes, I do think Netflix does an amazing job with characters and making them interesting. Relatable, I do think that there's relatability in here. It's definitely a heavy thinking show where it definitely makes you go back and forth. I found it a little predictable. I saw things coming a little sooner than I think that they wanted me to, but I catch a lot of things that are hidden. So that just might be me. But the characters are very interesting in this. What was my overall thoughts of this? I think it was good. I think it's getting a lot of negativity for no good reason. I think that if you've been watching all the Netflix stuff, that there's a lot of payoff in this. There's a lot of Easter eggs. I always have a problem when a character is struggling with finding themselves. I know these are origin stories, but I think sometimes they go too much to the well of, do I know what I'm doing? Do I know who I'm going to be? I would just like one Netflix show to actually start with them being who they're supposed to be. I don't need 13 episodes of, a character's crisis of life. But beyond that, it is a good show. I think it's getting a lot of unnecessary negativity. I think it was well written. I think people are being unnecessarily negative to it. I think there was a lot of comments about the choreographing of it. The fight scenes weren't intense enough. I don't know if I agree with that. This guy, I actually thought that he comes off looking too weak at times. I think that, when you watch it, you'll understand that he struggles with things. I don't think he should. I think that was kind of, I think sometimes in the way of trying to tell a story of these characters, you make them too soft and too weak. It's hard to take them too serious. Like in a Batman film, for example, you can't make Batman weak, but that's what everyone always kind of tries to do with the origin tales. They try to find that weakness about him, and it's harder with him. But on Netflix, it seems like every character that they've shown us, from Luke Cage to Iron Fist to Jessica Jones to Daredevil, each one of them has this weakness about him in the first series. And by the second series, what we saw in Daredevil is that they do show the growth, and I get that. And it's a long-term plan. I would just like to see them come off a little stronger in the very beginning. That would be my one critique about this series, is I do think he struggles too long with who he is. But the backstory and knowing that it's traveled through all the series is amazing. It gives us insight that we haven't seen yet into this series. And I think that, because remember, Iron Fist TV is doing what Marvel is doing with movies. These are all interconnected. So there are moving parts to this that now explain what's going on. And clearly there's a huger story coming. Would I recommend this to others, and what is its genre? I think everyone knows this is a TV comic books. That's the genre. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. I did think that it wasn't the best of the Netflix, but it's certainly not horrible. If I had to rate this, this really is probably around Daredevil season 1, where it could have been a little faster paced, it could have been a little more interesting, but we also have to remember that this is also a vehicle being used to tell a lot of the Defenders' story. I don't think Punisher's really going to interact much with the Defenders other than a crossover, so this was the moment to set up the events of what's about to happen to the Defenders. How do they all come together? This leaves us with a huge cliffhanger. It's definitely worth watching. Don't listen to all the negativity. Aside from fans who feel like certain things were changed that they don't like, and that's their right. If you're a fan of this character going into it, you're going to have expectations. I've always been very picky about what I found interesting. Like, I did not like The Last Joker, Jared Leto. I don't think he did a horrible job. It's just not what I envisioned Joker to be. I think it was a cartoon version of him. So that was my opinion, because I'm a really huge fan of the Joker. Same thing with Wolverine. I'm one of the few people who did not like the last Wolverine movie. So we're all entitled to our opinions. Just don't listen to people who are just hating this to hate it, because it really is a decent show. And it gives you an interesting story, and it's well worth it. It's much better than most of the stuff on TV right now that people are watching. So that's it. That's my review of it. Give Iron Fist a chance. It is good. It is worth your time. It's 13 episodes. It's going to come out to about 14 hours of watching, I think, because there's certain episodes that go longer than others, which I actually like about Netflix. They'll tell you a whole story in an episode versus most shows which make you try to cliffhang to the next episode. And it's got the ongoing story throughout the whole season, which I thought's interesting. But that's it. Give it a go. It's not horrible. It's not even bad. It's actually pretty good. So spend the time, invest in Iron Fist.